everyone, my name is Daphne. Today I'm going to talk about how video games, when played in excess, can be bad for one's mental health and physical health. So this is kind of not to persuade you not to play video games, but to limit your time playing video games. You'll see I myself play video games, and I think they're fun when played in moderation. Okay, preface, like many people, I am a huge fan of video games and play them almost every week. I usually play on the weekends. From the Google Forms results I received, I learned that many other people in the class share the same positive regard regarding video games. But I do want to remain unbiased, as going through my Google Forms results and also researching on my own, I've learned that video games, when not played responsibly, can have negative effects on the player, both mentally and physically. So just like any other form of escapism or media, which can include movies, TV series, video games can be perfectly fine in moderation. But again, I'm just trying to persuade you to play them in moderation. Okay, so onto my Google Forms results. I asked, do you believe video games are a detriment to mental physical health? So 75% said yes, 25% said no. I think that's backwards. It's backwards, but 25% actually said, no, that's right. No, I'm sorry. That is correct. That is wrong. 25% said it's not a detriment to physical health. 75% said yes, it is. Okay. So I also asked, do you believe video games that inspire dangerous behavior? 100% of the respondents said no. On a scale of 1 to 5, 3 being neutral and 5 being the highest opinion, what is your opinion on video games as a whole? So 50% of the respondents said 3, which is neutral in the middle. 25% said 4, which is higher, and the last 25% said 5, which means they have the highest opinion on video games. And then I asked, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being limited experience and 5 being weekly playing, how often do you play video games? 25% said 4, meaning they play relatively often. 75% said 5, which means they play very, very often. Here are the results continued. I asked, how do you feel about video games as an art medium? So I think every respondent had positive opinions on video games as an art medium, because they have different visuals, they have different sound design, soundtracks, different stories too. And then the last question was, how do you feel about video games as a coping skill? So the response to this question were pretty negative, actually. Most respondents agreed that video games can be a coping skill, but that they shouldn't exactly be utilized for that particular reason. One respondent actually said, and I'm going to keep them anonymous, one respondent said that their family member used video games to escape the pain of an abusive situation, but also that same respondent stated that they still believe playing too many video games can be bad or considered a maladaptive behavior. Another respondent stated that they really do enjoy playing video games, but they feel some regret looking back at how much time they played video games when they could have been doing something else. That same respondent also admitted that they think video games can become an addiction. So, video games and our health. Though many people enjoy video games as both a pastime and a form of media, when played in excess, just to reiterate, they can become a detriment to our physical and mental health. Okay, so video games and anxiety. Video games can increase anxiety. So Iowa State did a research, and they posted this on their website. The researchers found that using video games as a coping mechanism for anxiety predicted symptoms of gaming disorder, and higher levels of stress increased that risk. So this means that people who are already anxious and they go into video games thinking that that's going to help a little bit actually became more anxious. So Mayo Clinic also said that anxiety can lead to other depressive symptoms. So anxiety can cause things like isolation, antisocial behavior, which can in turn lead to depression. And speaking of depression, as written on addictioncenter.com, a study in 2019 published, the National Library of Medicine found that gaming addiction positively correlated with depression, loneliness, and social anxiety, especially in the young adult population. They also reported that young adults addicted to video games showed increased depression and anxiety and felt more socially isolated. So I'm not saying that video games necessarily cause depression, but they can cause depressive symptoms such as loneliness, irritability. I know sometimes when I mess up on a video game, I get irritable with my loved ones around me, social anxiety and isolation, and those things can lead to depression. And on to physical health. So, Kirk Moberg, MD, addiction specialist for Unity Point Health says, consequences of video game addiction can showcase in a number of ways, including wrist, neck, and elbow pain, skin blisters, calluses, and sleep disorders. Long-term addiction could lead to obesity, weakness, or numbness in the hands, and even blood clots. So, wrist pain, maybe calluses aren't as common, but I feel like sleep disorders are something that could be very common. I know I tend to play video games into the late night on the weekend because I have the time on the weekend, and I pay for it the next day. So these physical health problems can lead to mental health problems and vice versa, which is important to note. Like, if you're staying up late, you might be super anxious or even feel more depressed the next day, or vice versa. Okay, moderation versus addiction. Casual play in moderation, it can be a great way to relieve stress. So Douglas Gentile, a professor of psychology at Iowa State University, says, the issue is when the gaming begins to disrupt normal and healthy functioning. This may mean they're getting worse grades or lying to people about time spent gaming, or they're performing poorly at work. So there's nothing inherently wrong with playing video games. The problem is when you start to decline, like at work or in social settings or at school. You're putting off homework or work in order to play video games. So that is where the problem lies. But to reiterate, video games can be perfectly fine when played in moderation. So you may ask, why do we even play video games? I actually watched a TED Talk. The guy's name was Cam Adair, and he talked about how he struggled with gaming addiction. So the reasons he gave at the end of the speech as to why he played video games was that they are a temporary escape. He talked about going through a breakup with his girlfriend, and he was really depressed. So he turned to video games because he didn't want to deal with the problem of breaking up with his girlfriend. He didn't want to deal with the emotions. Second, they are social. The same speaker, he got bullied at school. He didn't really feel like he fit in, but when he got online to play video games, he was completely anonymous. He could make friends that way, and if he's like leveling up in the game and he's a good player, then people will respect him in the video game. Video games are also a challenge. So yeah, some video games are more challenging than others, but basically most video games do give you a mission or a goal to accomplish. And when you accomplish that goal, it makes you feel very good about yourself. And constant measurable growth, that's kind of the same as they are a challenge. There are goals that you can see that you're accomplishing, like you rank up, you leveled up, you upgrade a weapon or whatever. It makes you feel good, and you can see it happen. It's like a feedback loop. So in conclusion, these things are all good. Like, it's good to feel like you're accomplished. It's good to achieve goals. But I think it's also important to note that you should be doing that in your real life as well. To me, nothing feels better than having a week full of work and attending my classes, getting my homework done, and then on the weekend coming home playing video games, because I feel like I can relax and actually play the video games rather than putting off my responsibilities. Yeah, I should have. But I don't encourage others to use video games as a coping skill, like I mentioned. There are other hobbies such as walking, meditation, exercise that you should be utilizing for anxiety and depression, not video games. Thank you.